Wow, Digi-Panda! 2 uploads in one day? Today will probably be the exception, but if there's enough feedback for these 2 decks, I can start switching to a control aggro meta deck format for these 2 playstyles. In addition to the Black War Greymon control aspect, I am also going to go over an aggro version. And if you enjoy these types of videos, do consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more of my future content. And again, I'll be going over the card by card, the strengths, the weaknesses, and the combos. This deck runs 5 level 2s, 14 level 3s, 12 level 4s, 8 level 5s, 6 level 6s, 2 level 7s, 6 tamers, and 2 option cards. You'll notice the ratios are slightly different than the control build, but this is mainly because you're not utilizing black to a high degree. Because of less searchability, you'll want to build safely in the rays if needed, but there are a few gimmicks like before. For level 2s, this deck runs 1 BT5 Koromon and 4 BT6 Demi-Meramon. While I did mention in my last video you could run Gigimon, Koromon is actually more viable in this deck due to the number of Greymons. That being said, DP will be extremely important for this deck to safely go into security. But ultimately, tailor your deck based on your style. With rookies, this deck runs only again, Agumons. The main difference in this build is that it does not run any of the new BT8 Agumon for the fact that none of your level 4s in this build can Digivolve from it. Because of this, you also only max out on the BT5 Agumons and focus on purely DP increases for the rest of your level 3s. This comes with the second promo, the first starter deck at 2 copies, and the second red starter deck. There aren't a lot of other Agumons that go well in this deck, although you could also throw in the 2-cost Agumons that have a Digivolution cost of 1. Moving to level 4s, this deck runs the Geo Greymons again from the control build, again for the DNA Digivolution potential. But against the Imperial matchup, it's definite memes. But for the other 8 level 4s, these are primarily for extra DP, with BT5 Greymon and its reduced Digivolution cost, and Aggression, with the extra security check with starter deck Greymon. With DNA Digivolution with Chimeramon, you can nab any one of these level 4s if you need the extra DP buff or security check. But the best part now is, you can utilize starter deck Greymon more safely for the fact that you can always Digivolve into your Metal Greymons and just swing, knowing that Chimeramon can be used to recycle that boy while he's in the trash. For level 5s, this deck runs 1 BT8 Metal Greymon, 3 Metal Greymon Alteros mode, 2 EX1 Metal Greymon, and 2 Chimeramon. BT8 Metal Greymon isn't too important here, but it's a 1-up for the fact that you can utilize it for controlling the board state if you really need to. With Metal Greymon Alteros mode, you have 5 other Metal Greymon targets if you want to use the When Digivolution effect. But overall, you're just wanting to utilize it for the Digivolution climb and extra DP buff. In total, your War Greymon could potentially have a plus 6000 DP, utilizing the Promo Agumon, the BT5 Greymon, and Metal Greymon Alteros mode, surpassing even the 16,000 DP threshold that threatens you with Imperial Dramon Paladin mode. EX1 Metal Greymon can also be utilized for the piercing ability, but Chimeramon is where the real shenanigans can take place, which I'll cover in the combos. For level 6s, you may find it strange that I'm going with only 2 Black War Greymon and 4 BT1 War Greymon. However, with the aggro strategy, you want to utilize War Greymon as much as possible for the fact that there are many option cards that can crush your board, or even pass it back to your opponent's turn. Chaos Degradation is one of few cards that is going to be one of the biggest threats to every Digimon in the card game. And with BT1 War Greymon, there is the negation. Black War Greymon can also do the heavy lifting with multiple security checks and can pull a pseudo Jesmon, but ultimately I'd rather go the War Greymon route. And of course, Blitz Omnimon for the finisher. Blitz Omnimon also has built-in protection from a lot of cards, but again, it loses to Chaos Degradation. Jumping to option cards, this deck runs 2 in the form of Lightning Joust. With a Memory Fixer and Nokia Shiramine, your War Greymon can potentially check at minimum 3 security checks with 1 single attack at 13,000 DP. While not the safest, you'll still negate all option cards that can really cause issues for the deck. Because the deck doesn't run any memory boost, memory fixing needs to be found quickly, but again, I've catered the deck towards safety checking into the security over searching, which can bottom deck potentially important components. And finally, Tamers. This deck runs 2 copies of BT1 Taikamiya, 1 Marcus Daemon, and 3 Nokia Shiramine. Deck space is very tight in this build. But the purpose of Tai Kamiya is to grant you additional security checks if you have a large enough stack. Marcus Damon can help you generate memory if you decide to swing with your lower Greymons that might safely make it through security. And Nokia Shiromine for the playing of Agumons for free and reducing your Digivolution costs. For strengths and weaknesses, again, this deck has a hard time with draw power and memory efficient cards. Instead of Lightning Joust, you could run the red memory boost if you want to fix the potential memory issues and have 2 additional cards for searching. Matchup wise, you play similarly to Jessamon, potentially building a stack in the Rays and just swinging to security without a thought. Strength wise, this deck has a lot of OTK potential, but it can require some setup. In the combos, you might start off building your first deck in Agumon, then starter deck 1 Greymon for that extra security check. Following turn, you might opt to stay in the Rays and just Digivolve to a level 5 Digimon. On your next turn, you push, and at that point, maybe your opponent has hit a well-timed Geo Greymon or a Tai Kamiya in the stack. Now you can Digivolve into the Alterous mode or War Greymon for not 1, not 2, but 3 security checks. If you went into War Greymon, that's 4 checks instead. 1 swing into security and your opponent has option cards negated, and War Greymon sits at a nice 13,000 DP of safety. And then it's simply Blitz Omnimon for game. For a second scenario, let's say you have the starter deck Greymon in the Rays and your opponent attacked twice into security, hitting another starter deck Greymon and Geo Greymon. If they end up not removing your Geo Greymon and you have a memory fixer, you have a lot you can do. Pushing the Greymon out of the Rays and DNA Digivolve with the Geo Greymon into a Chimeramon for a memory cost of 0. You can place the starter deck Greymon that was trashed earlier at the bottom of the Digivolution stack. Draw 1. Now you have a slightly bigger stack than needed for Tai Kamiya's effect to proc, if you have Tai out. But you can now Digivolve into War Greymon for a memory cost of 3 and go to 0. This War Greymon can negate option cards and gain security check +1 for each starter deck Greymon, +1 for ties, and +1 for its own inherent +1 security check. For +4. That's 5 security cleared in 1 attack with all option cards negated. Assuming you have an Agumon with +2000 DP in the inheritables with a Demi-Meramon, that is a 14,000 DP body, which in my mind is a relatively safe security check. Chimeramon is going to add a lot of fun to deck building, and you may see some new builds on this channel that you've never seen before. And while this video was much shorter, I partially went off the assumption that you came to this video after you watched the control variant first, which if you haven't, I strongly recommend checking that one out as well. What are your thoughts on Black War Greymon, or Greymon Tribal in general? Let me know in the comments below. And if there's a specific deck profile you're wanting to see, also let me know. This is Digi-Panda. Logging out.